to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the creators, the achievers, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, my guest today is one of America's leading behavioral management specialists, and he's the author of the award-winning book, Brain Glue: How Selling Becomes Much Easier by Making Your Ideas Sticky. So I'm excited to chat with him. We're going to bring him on in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And so now that we've done that, we can get our guest on. So for 13 years, James Bond has ran one of Southern California's leading behavioral management firms, working with who's who of American business. Early in his career, he ran an advertising agency in Montreal. He is a workshop leader, a past workshop chairman for the resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and has been a featured guest speaker at 3 Southern California universities. So we are excited to get him on Behind the Dreamers. So welcome to the show, James. Super thrilled to have you here today.
Oh, hi, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be so much fun. I know that I've been waiting for this conversation to chat with you. And I know we got to talk a little bit offline before, which was kind of fun. So I got to learn a little bit about you. So I think our audience is going to love hearing what you have to say today. So this is just going to be fun.
Great. I would say, but it's 007. Yes. My parents had a sense of humor. What can I say? But
Right, exactly. Yes, I know. I was laughing about that. So fun. You know, when I was growing up, and I don't know how many people know this. I mean, people I was growing up with, but it was funny because my grandmother was full-blooded German. So we had a lot of German in our house. But here's the funny thing. My last name was Crocker, like Betty. So when I was growing up, you can imagine the torture that I would get. They'd be like, are you related to Betty? Are you related to Betty? And I'd be like, no, if I was related to Betty, don't you think I'd have a lot of money? And I don't even like to cook. So we got a problem here with this whole thing. And then the funny thing is, and then I married into a German last name. So now I have a real German last name that nobody can pronounce. So I just think it's the irony of life sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you're loading life.
Exactly. And you got to have a little bit of sense of humor sometimes, right?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Exactly.
People hang up on you. You're lucky. People hang up on me. James Bond, yeah, right. Click.
They're like, James Bond, which one are you? Which Bond are you, right? Got to have a sense of humor. All right, well, let's open this thing up. I want to talk a little bit about what you are doing. So tell us about this book and what led us to this.
Okay. Well, I ran an advertising agency in Montreal. I've been living in Southern California for 37 years. We actually named our middle daughter, we gave her the initials LA. So we know as long as people say, oh, well, you've been in Los Angeles or Southern California. And we'd say, how old's Lauren again? So we know 37. So
there's that sense of humor.
Yeah, I guess. It's funny because LA, so Asia, AJA, you know, and it was named after the Steely Dan album, Asia, and the Steely Dan song. And 2 years ago, she said, I love the name Asia, and people love the name Asia. How come you name me Asia? And I said, well, because of Steely Dan. And so she hung up, and she called me back in about an hour and said, I hate that song. And we're like, sorry, as a parent, you've been naming your child. Hopefully they're going to like that name, but she called back after and said, I think I'm getting used to it. I can understand why you liked it. But yeah, so I started an advertising agency in Montreal and worked my way up. And we eventually won major clients like Kraft Foods, Timex Watches, Seagram's, their world headquarters in Montreal. And I had the opportunity to win the anti-drug campaign in America with powerful, logical reasons why you should not do drugs. I'm a logical guy. Most of us are logical, okay? Wait till you hear this. And so we lost the campaign, and we didn't get the opportunity to win it. And it terrified me when I saw what won. It was a guy holding an egg saying, this is your brain. And cracked the shell and dropped the egg into it. You're nodding. You know this one. How long ago did you see it And yet we still remember it like it was yesterday. Dropped the egg, cracked the shell, dropped the egg into a sizzling frying pan and pointed down and said, "This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?"
Ah.
And it scared me. At first, I recognized this is infinitely more powerful than logic. And I knew logic, not emotional selling. This was emotional selling, something I had no idea how to do, and it terrified me. They don't teach it in school and all that stuff. In fact, they sort of wire it out of us. We try to get all emotional. Yeah. They go, no, come on, quiet down, everybody. Please stop talking to each other. In school is washing down our emotion. And yet emotion is the greatest salesman ever, saleswoman ever. Okay. Because I remember I went to Jack. I hated selling in the beginning when I first started. I was in business with one of my brothers, and I love my brother dearly, but not in business. And he was a better salesman than me. We went into Avon Cosmetics, okay? And we're sitting there, and the buyer for Avon says, my brother's John, and he said, John, is between you and this other company that we'd give this project to. And frankly, we'd rather give it to you guys, but you're more expensive than the other guys. And so he leans across the desk and he says, my brother, and he says, why do you think the other guy's so cheap? There's a long pause, and then the guy says, like straight out of the textbook, okay, I get your point. You read up a purchase order. And I thought my head was going to explode. It's like, what the hell just happened? He's hiring us because we're more expensive? What? And so all this stuff sort of made me realize I have no idea how emotion works, how emotional selling works. And so I wrote Your Brain on Drugs, this is your brain on drugs, on a 3x5 card. I love 3x5 cards. And I created a box right next to my computer, and I called it the passion box. And every time I saw something that was just amazing from an emotional standpoint, not logical, but emotional, or heard something, like somebody would say something from an emotional standpoint, it would be really powerful, I would write it down or, tear out the ad. If I saw an ad, I'd put it in my box. So eventually I have enough examples that I could figure out how emotional selling works, hopefully. After more than 10 years, we moved to Southern California. I met John Gray. And John Gray was telling me he's an author. And John Gray, you're nodding your head. I said, don't say what the point was yet, okay? John Gray was telling me that he wrote this incredible book. And I know it because I had a copy of his book. And it was called Men, Women, and Relationships. And people loved the book. They said, man, this book, it changed my life. It changed my relationship. And yet very few people bought the book. And he was frustrated because people who read it loved it. But nobody was buying the book. And he sold a few thousand copies. So he got this crazy idea. What if I change the title to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? And then just tweak the content a little so you refer to it throughout the book. But it's basically the same book. What do you think happened? He was telling me almost overnight, 500,000 copies got sold, then 1 million, then 2 million, then 5 million. In my book, I say he sold 10 million copies, but I know Steve Harrison, who helped him with marketing, he said, no, we're over 50 million books already sold. He went from 20,000 to 50 million people buying his book just because he changed the title. Like, wow. And so when I got home, I was writing, I was thinking a book. Actually, a copy of the book. I was going to put the book in the passion box. And I thought, wait a second. Men are really from a different planet. I know how many women out there think we are from a different planet. We act like it sometimes, but we're not really from a different planet. Really, we're not. But I realized it's a metaphor, because men aren't really from a different planet. And that's what I was thinking about it. Like, this is your brain on drugs. He was holding an egg. That's a metaphor also. It's not, it's just like an egg. Basically, see, dropping into a sizzling frying pan. I was like, oh, is emotional selling metaphors? So when I got home, I dumped the passion box on my bed, and I discovered there are 14 brain triggers. Metaphors is just one of 14 brain triggers at the heart of emotional selling. And it's amazing. That's when, as I started putting it all together, I started realizing, if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit. O.J. Simpson got freed from an almost certain guilty verdict on a murder trial. There were 2 of the jurors interviewed after the trial. And this journalist said, with all that evidence against O.J., how come you found him not guilty? And one of them responded while the other one nodded her head. And she said, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit. We had to acquit, rhyme. And I realized, so for everybody out there, for you, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Okay.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard that? Okay. I could be on my deathbed. It's like, hey, James, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, you know? I mean, I remember it. I mean, I might have heard it 10, 20, maybe 50 years ago or more. For me, it was 50. I'm old. What can I say? And yet we remember it like it was yesterday. When I started putting together all this, and then I started teaching this, because I teach in the small business administration. So sometimes I'll have, 300, 400, 500 people at a time doing this, and then applying this as I started applying it. Suddenly people's income exploded because they would change the name of their product, and suddenly, whoa, it's amazing. It works with jokes. In fact, humor is one of the brain glue tools, just by the way. It's like, if you I had these 3 women, they're kind of religious, and I was trying to talk them into something. And I figured, well, they're kind of religious. Why don't I use a religious joke? So I said, a little girl comes up to her mommy and says, Mommy, Daddy says we came from apes, but you say we came from Adam and Eve. Honey, Daddy's talking about his family. I'm talking about my family. And once they started laughing, they become much more open-minded to what I was saying, what I was talking about. I ran a behavioral management for one of America's leading behavioral management firms. We work with famous people like Warren Buffett's team and all these famous people. And it's one of the things that I trained because we have PhDs in psychology and organizational development, and I would train them to tell a joke. And they'll go, well, do we have to? I said, yes, even if you're bad at joke telling, you have to tell a joke because it opens up the mind and people become much more receptive. I remember Bill Clinton and I forget who it was, but the head of Russia. And the 2 of them are laughing hysterically. One told a joke or something, and I went like, oh, okay, good. I guess we're not going to go to war with Russia. They're telling jokes to each other. I mean, if you're telling jokes to each other, you're really going to go, by the way, now we're going to start firing missiles at you,
Right.
But yeah, it's just really, and so it's amazing how many comedians use brain glue. Let me give you a few examples if that's okay.
Yeah.
So there's something called chiasmus. Rhyme is like A-B. It rhymes, okay? It's time to rhyme. Okay, there we go. So then there's something called chiasmus, which is like a flip. Instead of A-B, it's A-B-B-A. So it's like all for one and one for all. My wife hates this song, but it's, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with.
You're with, yeah.
Okay. So that's it. So I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. Okay. So for all you drinkers out there, this is me. Old people like me can relate to this one. I'd rather wake up and pee than pee and wake up. Okay. So I can relate to. Don't sweat the petty things or pet the sweaty things.
Oh my gosh.
Mae West had great humor. Oh, and she said, good girls go to heaven, bad girls go everywhere. Mae West was awesome. She was in the early days of the movie business. I don't know why. Yeah. And I don't seem to have done a movie on Mae West, and she was awesome. She discovered famous actors,
Yeah.
She said it's better to be looked over than overlooked. As a woman, women like a man with a past, but they prefer a man with a present. Show up with a present, buddy. And it's one of my favorites. I hope that this doesn't cross a line with your audience. But a hard man is good to find. I work with Warren Buffett's team, and so Warren Buffett, the media loved Warren Buffett. He would say things like, I love this one. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. Okay? What he's basically saying is only when times get tough do you realize who's competent or who's capable.
Right.
But if he said that, you go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But by saying only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I like saying, I use a metaphor for, because naked is trigger words. You have trigger words that are really good.
Right.
And it's amazing when you hear a trigger word. I'm watching an ad on TV. I had a TV next to my computer. And I heard an ad for Blue Emu. It's like, I
know what it is. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it had Johnny Bench, who's a famous, he's in the Hall of Fame for a baseball Hall of Fame. And he's talking. But I'm not even listening. Who cares? And then he says, Blue Emu, it works fast. Half a week of that. Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. And I'm like, what? What did he just say? It works fast and you won't stink.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Right.
So it's just that it woke up my brain. And so I love saying this about brain glue. Brain glue is like looking in your backyard and seeing a naked man through your backyard. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What? Wakes up your brain. And so people apply this for products. There's a famous, there's a mom and her son who love Shark Tank. A lot of us love Shark Tank. And she was watching, they were watching Shark Tank, and they said, well, that would really be fun to create a product and be really successful and rich and get on Shark Tank. And so when I think, what would be a good product? And it takes a while. You don't just go, oh, hey, let's do that. Sometimes when you're trying to come up with a product, you want to take a while and think about it to get a good product. Well, she was constipated, and the doctor told her, when you're in the bathroom on the toilet, you should raise your feet like 6 to 8 inches off the toilet. And it helps to shape your body, and you go to the bathroom easier. I don't want to get too much into that, but okay.
Right.
So they thought, oh, well, first it worked. It was really great. And then she thought, this is a great product to sell. Let's find a manufacturer that can manufacture these plastic little, footstools. And wow. So what are we going to call it? Well, we can call it the toilet stool. But I don't know. That doesn't sound really good. A toilet stool?
Right.
You think people are going to buy the toilet stool? So what are some other words for toilet stool, for toilet? Potty. Okay, and I'm kind of squatting. Squatty Potty, Brian.
Squatty
Potty. Squatty Potty went from 0 to over $100 million of sales. Right. They couldn't believe it. On Shark Tank, they were lining up to invest in it. I mean, they had fun because they also had fun selling their product because they were saying like, hey, want a Squatty Potty? Squatty Potty? You're almost laughing when you hear it, What's a Squatty Potty? Well, when you're in the bathroom on the toilet, you put your feet up on the thing. And so it's like it turned them into multimillionaires while they were having fun. So this guy, Paul Tran, I don't know, getting into all this private area stuff, but I thought this was fun. So Paul Tran invented an electric razor for men's private areas, okay? Mm-hmm. I don't want to get too much into this, but there we go. Okay? And so what do you call your product? You want to call it something that people remember. Yeah. And so he's thinking of metaphors. It's just like, okay, as metaphors. Okay. That's a good way to start it. And I always say, have as much fun as you can. Come up with the craziest idea. Like brain glue is like a naked man running through your backyard. Okay, what? You can't get your eyes off it. So Paul Tran has an electric razor for men's private areas. So he's thinking like, what's it like? It's kind of like a lawnmower. Why don't I call the product the Lawnmower? Okay. In fact, he changed the name of his company. You're laughing, everybody. I'm just like, what? The Lawnmower? He changed the name of his company to Manscaped. We're going to landscape a man with a lawnmower. Okay. I remember being in a store, I think it was Bed Bath & Beyond or something like that. And there was a poster and it said the lawnmower with an arrow and it showed the shaver. And I'm like, that's a lawnmower? And I started reading it, like, what the heck's a lawnmower for men's private areas? Okay. No, I wouldn't. I've never bought it, okay? If I bought it, I would not share it with other guys. Let's start there. You guys, get your own. Okay, whatever. Okay. But if I could see myself calling a friend and saying, hey, guess what I just bought? What? I bought the lawnmower. A lawnmower? What do you have to mow your lawn? I said, no, it's for men's private areas. I could hear him laughing. Hey, Mary, to his girlfriend or his wife. You got to hear this. James just bought the lawnmower. Oh, he has to mow his lawn? Oh, And it grew. He sold hundreds of millions of dollars of the lawnmower. The lawnmower. I mean, I got a lawnmower. But it's just like it people started laughing and going like, oh, and they remember it.
Right.
And they buy it, actually, too. It's amazing. When you start to understand this. I mean, I love this thing, okay?
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you. This is my time. Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
Never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid all my dues, waited in line, 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine.
You've heard of billionaire Richard Branson, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what do Richard Branson Madonna and olive oil have in common?
You told me this, but I don't even remember it.
Virgin.
Ah.
Like
awesome.
So virgin olive oil.
Yep.
Okay. It sounds like crazy. Like a virgin. Touched for the very first time. Oh, I'm a terrible singer, so sorry about that, everybody. But
we get the idea, James. We get it.
And Virgin Airlines. He actually started with Virgin Records. He dropped out of high school. He had almost no money. Okay, Richard Branson. So he borrowed some money from his dad, and he started a magazine for people in the music industry. Okay, and then he eventually started a record company, and he called it Virgin Records. And he ended up getting people like the Rolling Stones to become his clients, And so people found it really cool being, part of Virgin Records. That's really cool.
Yeah.
He realized it's so powerful. He started getting all these Virgin companies. He's got Virgin hotels. I've never seen them, but apparently they're really successful.
They're nice. There is one here in Dallas. They are nice
hotels.
There
you go. Virgin hotels.
Yep. I've been there.
But it wakes up the brain, and then you notice it. Because that's the biggest problem. We're so bombarded. We're so overwhelmed with knowledge and information. We're looking at our cell phones all the time and whatever. That it takes a lot to wake up the brain. So people go like, "Whoa, what's that?" But that's what brain glue does. Is it's if you're trying to convince somebody. So I'm trying to convince these people. I have this friend who's got a closed mind. He's very closed-minded, and so if I said to him, you got to be open-minded. He just get pissed off at me,
Right.
So I was using a brain glue tool, and one of the brain glue tools is metaphors, and it's just like. And so open mind, okay? So the word open. So what else works best when it's open? Umbrellas, an umbrella, a parachute, your computer, okay? A book. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't work well unless you open it, okay?
Right.
And so let's pick a parachute. That's what I did. I picked a parachute, and I said to my friend, hey, Joseph, your brain is like a parachute. It works best when it's open.
That's good.
And he went like, okay. Instead of saying, hell with that, screw you,
Right.
It's just, in fact, talking about that, so I'm going to give you a business slogan. They had it in America, but people got offended, so they stopped. And they have it in Europe now, okay? So can you imagine a business that has the slogan, screw yourself? This is a business slogan. It's a real business slogan, okay?
Yeah.
Who do you think it is?
Screw yourself. I have no idea.
IKEA.
Oh.
If you ever bought something from IKEA, it comes with screws, and you got to screw the thing.
IKEA furniture, yes.
Thank you. And so their early slogan was "screw yourself."
Yeah.
But the people got offended.
Yeah. Well, and I could see because every time you buy IKEA furniture, you're in for work because you got lots of screws to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. So,
that's great.
So I'm from Montreal. I'm from Canada originally, and when I was a kid, they had there's a city in Canada called Regina, Saskatchewan. Okay. And as a kid, we would laugh like crazy because what does it sound like? Regina. Gee, it sounds like vagina. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the advertiser, there's a company that was doing advertising for the city of Regina, and they came up with a slogan that was so hilarious that Madonna and Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones shared it with their audiences when they were doing concerts, okay? They came up with T-shirts and with cups that had this slogan on it, okay? And after about 2 years, and they literally tripled their tourism of people coming there because of this slogan. And after about 2 years, they apologized and said, we didn't think it was going to offend people. We're really sorry. Ha, ha, ha. Because they tripled their tourism. You know what it was? Regina, it rhymes with fun.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And people would go, Regina, it rhymes with fun. What the heck's that? They go to regina.com and they go, oh, wow. And they learn about the city and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would do that. You have to have lots of guts, I guess, to come up with that. But it was funny. I mean, it was so funny that people would have T-shirts of it and walk around with T-shirts. Hey, guess what? Regina. I mean, but it's so powerful. So here's a song. Sorry, I meant the songs here, but so like Smells Like Teen Spirit is
Right.
Kurt Cobain is like one of his favorite songs. Ooh, what does Teen Spirit smell like? Okay. But he gets your attention with that, even though it's a fabulous song. But so I was standing on the corner of Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one of the songs that helped the Eagles become really famous.
Yeah.
But you know what? What else it did, and it wasn't even intended to. It made Winslow, Arizona, a tourist attraction.
Right.
I had this woman who lives in Arizona, and she's telling me, "Have you ever been to Winslow? It's a hole in the wall. It's nothing." But they put up a statue of a lamppost with a guy leaning against it with a guitar in his hand, and on the top of it says "Standing on the Corner," and right behind it in huge letters it says Winslow, Arizona. And people are driving along, Route 66. They go Winslow, Arizona. Oh, Winslow, Arizona! We got to check it out. And they take photographs of themselves. It's like it's like a tiny town, okay? It's like one street, but people would take photographs of themselves, and it really boosted the tourism. It wasn't meant to, but it's because it's in a song that suddenly people go like, wow, It's so much fun. So how would you like to come up with an idea that's really amazing, and someone you hate steals it from you and gets rich, and you get poor?
Right.
Would that be fun? Yeah. Not.
Yeah. So they need to understand your brain glue then, right? You know what I love about this? And you and I talked about this off camera. So I'm listening to all this, and we got to talk a little bit off too. So I get this. And we talked about this whole psychology of selling. And it's funny because you know how you'll meet people and they pride themselves on being logic, right? Like being pragmatic. I think like you talked in the very beginning, we all do that. We say, no, I'm not buying this because I'm going to think this through. But the reality is, everything we do is on emotion. Even if we subscribe to this idea that we're being pragmatic, we're being on the fear train. That's still an emotion that we're not buying. It's a fear, right? So I think it's funny when you really understand the psychology of all of this. And I know this, only because I studied some of this too. So I get I totally, what you're saying resonates with me. I'm interested in, I want to see all your 14 different things because I've heard these in different various ways, like, the alliteration and the metaphors. I've heard all these different things, and you're right, because you pick up on these things. And so I think when you start really understanding the psychology, it makes this a little bit easier to navigate. So I love what you've got in this book and these tools that you put there. I really want to see all of them. I want to know, because I know some of them. I'd like to see all of them that you've got in there. So
there are three things that are really important to note about brain glue. Okay. If you want to get rich, if you have a product or you're trying to sell something online or otherwise, you have to know brain glue. Jack Canfield wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. He sold 500 million books. Okay. The guy's rich. He doesn't need me telling him anything. He says, if you're in business or trying to sell something and you don't know brain glue, you have a massive disadvantage. Okay. It's a really easy way. So the first one is products. If you want to get rich, I like to say, switch your pitch if you want to get rich. Okay. Or, brain glue shows you how to light the fire of desire in your mind. Anyway, that's the first one. Is you want to make a lot of money, you got to learn brain glue. Okay. But the second one is you want to be impressive. Famous people come up with phrases that people repeat over and over again. I have this phrase from this guy. He was ages ago. Malcolm X. He said, "We didn't land on Plymouth Rock; the rock landed on us." When you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. People loved him, but a large part of why they loved him, like Warren Buffett, is because he says things that people want to remember and they share with somebody else.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, you want to get rich, brain glue will help you. The second one is you want to get famous, brain glue will help you because it helps you come up with phrases where people start repeating it over and over again. I go, oh, wow, that's really cool. Guess what he just said, okay?
Yeah.
And the third one, which is important, is if you want to be a comedian, brain glue helps you because it's amazing. Now that I've learned brain glue, I talk about it in the book because I have jokes throughout the book. You can't not have jokes because comedians use it all the time. It's amazing. You start realizing, oh, that's funny. And I have this one guy who was telling me, brain glue is not meant for this. Let me start there, okay? But he said, I was trying to get a date with this girl and she would not go out with me. And as I'm reading your book, I started applying some of the tools of brain glue, and I'm on my second date with her now. I don't know. I think I'm going to marry her. It's like, it's not meant for that. He said, I know, but it works.
You learned some tricks. It worked. Hey, listen, psychology works in all areas of life. So, and I used to say this, back in, in all my years of Mary Kay, that we're always selling something. We sell the jeans we're wearing, we sell the hair, we sell the nail salon, we sell the cookies we eat, the restaurants, the product. We're always selling. So the trick's got to work.
Mary Kay had the one thing that was the most important. You know what it was? Passion. She communicated passion. She got into it because she was going to, she hated the fact that she was so smart and so capable, and people she would train were suddenly given higher paychecks than her, even though she's the one that motivated them all. And then she started Mary Kay Cosmetics, and, because I love it. Zig Ziglar said this: selling is nothing more than transference of passion. Mm-hmm. We're taught logic, but logic is not, it's how you sell. It's passion.
Right.
If you saw a movie that you love, I don't have to teach you how to sell. You're going to go, oh, you have to see Hidden Figures is such a good movie. Oh, I love that movie. The three black women in NASA. I mean, whoa, I couldn't believe it, And I don't have to tell you how to sell. And that's why, what we learned in school shuts down passion.
Right.
Come on, forget that. Don't get all excited. Just tell us, tell us a logical reason why you should do that. When in fact, when you want to persuade someone, or you want to get someone to enjoy life. I saw this guy who had a T-shirt that says "Life sucks and then you die," and I'm like, no,
I remember that. Yes,
this is life right now. So, but just it's just you can't, don't get that T-shirt. Like, have fun. This has got to be life right now. Including be some more successful, in your job, or if you're starting a business, or in your business, whatever. And have fun doing it. I mean, life is short. And it's like, if you're passionate, it's easy to get other people to want to be passionate too. They said suicide rate is up in America, okay? Since COVID and all that stuff, for younger kids. That's really sad. And I think we just need to teach them how to tell jokes. Yeah. We need, don't just listen to jokes, listen to humor. That'll really help you. But we'll train you how to tell jokes. It's just like when you start laughing. I was doing a turnaround of this company that makes martial arts equipment. And they were in trouble. So a turnaround is like, I would come in and I would help them to fix the company so it doesn't go bankrupt. And so the owner of the company was really stressed, and you could see it on his face. And the employees, even though they didn't know what the problem was, they knew that something's going on, and they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs. And so I always start with a joke, and I start with this joke, and they tortured me with this joke over a year. The company took off like crazy. But the joke was, so I said, hi. They said, here's James Body's going to help us to try to, make the company grow. So I said, okay, well, let me start with this procedure, everybody. Okay. Not really procedure, it's a joke. They weren't prepared. I said, so the maintenance man is hiding in the maintenance closet. And every time people approach the closet, he'd open the door and scream, supplies. Okay. Instead of surprise.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. I think humor's
all
good.
Through the year, people would be, every time they saw me, they go, hey, supply. I'm looking in the window and I see this woman and she's really stressed. You can see stress on her face. She was on the phone with somebody. I don't know if it didn't have product or didn't work, or I don't know what it was. Or maybe she had a personal issue, but you could see stress in her face. So I knocked on the window and I opened the door, and she looked up at me and smiled and went, supplies. They tortured me all the time, but it changed her face. It changed, and you can see it change her. People become more creative when they're happy, when they're, it triggers something called oxytocin in the brain. And it's when you make people laugh, they suddenly become much more receptive to what you're doing. You become more creative. It opens up different parts of the brain and our capabilities. And so, just, I mean, you gotta have fun.
So everybody's got to get this book. If you're in business and you're trying to market yourself, you need to get this book so you can differentiate yourself, right? I think that's the big thing we talk about. I've had so many, it's as you're talking about like the telling the jokes. I had a comedian, I have another one coming on, but I had one come on my other show, and that's what she talks a lot about. That's her specialty. She's been on like on HBO and on some other comedy type thing, stand up, comedian, but she does a lot of training with women, and I think she works with men, but mostly women, on helping them how to communicate and use comedy as a way to bring in, like when they're trying to sell and differentiate themselves. So we talked a lot about that. And I think that's so great, because you're right. It really does. We come from a different place when we're taking down the wall, like when we break that wall down. And how do we do that? We got to get people to engage and open up their mind. And sometimes you have to use that to to break through that. So I think that's great. But I think what you're telling me and what I'm hearing from this book is there's a lot of different tools in here that somebody could pick up for, if they're in a place where they're trying to market themselves a product, set themselves apart. There's going to be more than one tool in this book that they'll be able to utilize and say, okay, what can I use to help me be different and set myself apart from everybody else? And so many great examples in this. The egg one, like I all of us remember the egg. This is your brain on drugs. We all remember that one. I knew immediately when you talked about the egg, I'm like, I know what he's talking about. So all great examples. And this has been great. Thank you for sharing all this. I think there's a lot of good stuff there. So James, if somebody wants to get this book, they want to find out more about this. I think after this is over and they hear all these examples, I think people are going to be like, hey, I need to run and go find this. Where do we want to send them to come get it?
Well, if you go to Amazon and get it. You got to look at Brain Glue, or you can, easier, just do braingluebook.com on your computer, and it'll take you right to the page on Amazon. Then you could read samples in the book. I've got an audio book with this other guy. He's a comedian. He's hilarious. I had to have a comedian doing it, okay? So you could tell he's a comedian when you listen to him, People love that. But yeah, go to braingluebook.com, and that'll take you to Amazon, and you can start looking at the samples and everything else. I think people are loving it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a fun read. I'm sure it sounds. Just I can tell by your personality, that you're fun, and I have a feeling the book is probably a fun book, and I'm excited. I want to check it out. Just a lot of these, some of the examples you used today, I've heard of, and you're right, because you'll see these things, and and it's like something you hear, something they'll say, like it's a repeated thing, it'll stick, and and it's one of the things I know, like when I'm working with my clients, a lot of times I'm always telling them, like, what are you using to differentiate yourself from every other person out there that's doing the same thing you're doing, right? Like it was in the beginning, like when we started doing podcasts, when I first started, my first show was Starter Girls. I still have that show, by the way. It's unique. Nobody has it. And the logo is unique. And so it's funny because even when I put that show down and didn't record for a year, it was still getting downloads. People are still tracking that show, and because it's a unique show, it has a unique title, unique logo. It's different, and
but it's also because of your personality. You're passionate. So you're passionate, and I think it rubs off on all your fans. It certainly rubs off on me. I was almost late for it today because I was sitting and listening to one of your other ones. You're telling stuff, and I was like, oh no, this. Wait, clock. Oh.
Yeah, when I get pretty passionate about things, I do. I get on something. I'm like, this is a good topic. We got to talk about it. But I love what you're doing, and I think this is an important topic. And it doesn't really matter what you're doing, because like we talked about, sales is important. Everything we do in life is selling. We're selling a spouse. We're selling a job we're trying to get. We're selling a position. We're always selling something. And so these tools are important. And no matter how many times you want to put pragmatism into all of this stuff, I guess there's times to be pragmatic. But when you're selling to people, you're probably not going to win if you're trying to be pragmatic. It's not going to work. So, And even as much as I always say, as much selling as I do, I always can see through people. I always feel like I can sort of see through people when they're being really cheesy salesmen. But I will tell you, it is hard not to like somebody. And I'm going to tell you this story. And I don't know if I've told this in an episode before, but I had a guy. He's still in my Facebook. He's friend. I had 3 guys. This was a few years back, come to bid us a quote to paint our house. And the first one, I don't even know if the first one even showed up. The second one showed up and told me he would email me a quote, never did. The third one walked in my door and said, what do I need to do to get your business? And I was like, that is pretty good. He got my business because I liked the guy. He was a nice guy. And he went around and said, he's like, we may not be the cheapest, but we will do a good job. What do I need to do to get your business? And so he set himself apart from all the others. Because there were other people that had called and messaged me. There were several, but there were only 3 that had said, hey, I'm going to be there. Because contractors are kind of hard. They don't always show up. But he set himself apart from the others that had communicated with me. And that's the thing. When you think about people that you're dealing with, like contractors or any type of business, what is the company that sets himself apart? There's something they're doing that you go, I want that particular one to come and do my work or do business with. So I think it's
exactly. And he engaged with you. He connected with you, and instead of just throwing an idea on a phone or we'll show up.
Yeah. So set yourself apart, and you've got the tools. That's the thing. You've got the book that tells people how to do this. So We'll make sure, James, when this gets out, we get the the website on there so everybody can go and check it out. Hopefully they'll hear this message. And I've got lots of people in the entrepreneur space. I'm sure they're going to be like all over this. What is this? Brain glue, right? That we're talking
and
about.
they're short chapters. I want to let everybody know this. That's what people love about this. As jokes, it tells you how it works and everything else, and then gives you a little exercise and moves on to the next one. And people love that because you can stop and go, wow, this is fun. I can do this one. And it's all by it, I'm throwing all these ideas of the humor and everything else, but it's simplified. And that's what people love about this, is they find it really a simple book to read. And also, I think I'm kind of ADD or ADHD, so I get you to a point right away. And people say, oh, good. Yeah, I tell stories, but it resonates. But yeah, just braingluebook.com. I think people will enjoy that.
Very cool. Well, good. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you for all the stories. It's been great. All the examples. There were so many in here. Like so many different things. And I'm sure, like I said, people that hear this are going to go, yeah, I remember that. Or, yeah, that makes sense. And who knows, it may spawn something for them that they go, hey, I just got a really good idea. I think a lot of these creative things, it's funny. I get a lot of ADHD people in my world. Like, I feel like I coach a lot of them. I'm probably myself because we're all creative people, but it's so great. And the one thing I will say about a lot of these things that you do, the ideas flow when you're not trying to make them flow, right? It's when you're kind of just allowing it to happen. That's when these things sort of come up. And you'll have a good idea because you're like, that's a good idea, right? Like, you'll know. And that's what I've learned about this stuff is that, when you sit down and try to make it all work out, it's like, take an idea, put it down, rest on it a little bit more. As things come together, you'll start piecing the idea together in time. Give yourself some time to piece that together. Don't feel like you got to have that all at one moment. So, but we do want to get this out. And like I said, we'll make sure that the website gets on there so everybody knows where to find this book so they can get some tools and techniques to help them come up with these ideas. So thank you, James. It's been fun.
Thank you, Jennifer. You are just lots of fun.
Thank you.
In fact, when I'm done with this, I'm going back to your podcast, by the way. So
awesome. Good. Awesome. Enjoy. There's a lot of great people that come on there. So thank you.
Well, you work hard. I had to interview to get on the show. So, I think you do a good job of making sure that people are, that your audience is going to get benefit from it and fun. Yeah. It's got to be benefit.
Exactly. Well, thank you. And of course, I do want to say to the audience, if you do enjoy the show, head on over to Apple, give us a review over there, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube so we can keep sharing all these awesome stories and bringing great content to you. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.